I want to thank each one of you and your organizations. Excuse me. I were visiting our troops and they had pizza pie.
This is Joe Biden. On February 24th, 2022, the day that Russia began its invasion of Ukraine, Biden announced sanctions against Russia.
Today, I'm authorizing additional strong sanctions and new limitations on what can be exported to Russia. This is going to impose severe cost on the Russian economy, both immediately and over time.
And keep in mind that these sanctions were on top of previously announced sanctions, which ultimately didn't prevent Russian President Vladimir Putin from invading Ukraine.
No one expected the sanctions to prevent anything from happening.
But saying that the sanctions weren't expected to prevent anything contradicts statements from several members of his own administration.
The sanctions are designed in the first instance to try to deter Russia from taking further aggression, from engaging in a massive invasion of Ukraine.
The purpose of the sanctions has always been and continues to be deterrence.
So the word that Antony Blinken and Kamala Harris both used was deter. Merriam-Webster provides the following definition to deter as to turn aside, discourage, or prevent from acting. In other words, imposing sanctions were meant to prevent Vladimir Putin from invading Ukraine.
The president believes that sanctions are intended to deter.
And that is National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan specifically saying that his boss, President Joe Biden, believed that sanctions are intended to deter.
If sanctions cannot stop President Putin, what penalty can?
I didn't say sanctions couldn't stop him.
Confusing, I know. And right after Biden's press conference, a reporter asked White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki to clarify.
Today, with the president's comment that no one expected the sanctions to prevent anything from happening, moving forward, do you expect this slate of sanctions to prevent any further advancement or aggression from Russia?
Well, I would say that later in the back and forth or the press avail, he also said when asked if sanctions cannot stop President Putin, what penalty can? And he said, I didn't say sanctions couldn't stop him, which leads me to believe that's not exactly what he meant.
So for clarity, when Biden said no one expected the sanctions to prevent anything from happening, Psaki believes that he misspoke.
That's not exactly what he meant.
So the sanctions didn't deter the start of the invasion. Fine, whatever. But according to Biden, now that the sanctions are in place, it's just a matter of time before Russia feels their effect.
They are profound sanctions. Let's have a conversation in another month or so to see if they're working.
And spoiler alert, 1 month later, they weren't working. So Biden went to Europe and visited NATO headquarters, where it was announced that NATO would deploy 4 new battle groups to defend the eastern flank, and that there would be even more sanctions. Because feelings. And at a press conference, a reporter asked about it.
Sir, deterrence didn't work. What makes you think Vladimir Putin will alter course based on the action you've taken today?
This reporter is making assumptions about how Biden is thinking, or that he's thinking at all. Therefore, it is a poor question. The question should have been phrased, do you think these actions will cause Putin to change course? But it doesn't matter because Biden completely ignored her question and focused on her statement about deterrence not working.
Let's get something straight. You remember, if you covered me from the very beginning, I did not say that, in fact, the sanctions would deter him. Sanctions never deter. You keep talking about that. Sanctions never deter.
So if sanctions never deter, then why would anyone in the administration say that sanctions are a deterrent? Oh, my brain hurts. So fine, let's say that sanctions are and have never been a deterrent. Then what's the point of imposing sanctions in the first place?
The maintenance of sanctions and the demonstration why I asked for this NATO meeting today is to be sure that after a month we will sustain what we're doing, not just next month, the following month, but for the remainder of this entire year. That's what will stop him.
Okay, maintaining the sanctions will eventually stop Putin. Those are Biden's own words.
The maintenance of sanctions, the increasing the pain, that's what will stop him.
But then, seconds later, Biden gets confused and claims he didn't say what he just said.
You believe the actions today will have an impact on making Russia change course in Ukraine?
That's not what I said. You're playing a game with me. I know. The answer is no.
But Biden just said seconds before that the maintenance of sanctions will stop Putin. Now he's telling the reporter that he never said it.
You believe the actions today will have an impact on making Russia change course in Ukraine?
The answer is no.
81 million votes, guys. So during the 2020 presidential campaign and leading up to his taking office, Biden would constantly say the following.
The words of a president matter, no matter how good or bad that president is.
With that said, while in Europe, Biden's words kept getting the better of him.
If chemical weapons were used in Ukraine, would that trigger a military response from NATO?
It would trigger a response in kind. Whether or not you're asking whether NATO would cross, we'd make that decision at the time.
The term in kind means to do the same thing to someone that they have just done to you. And that means when Biden said that if Russia uses chemical weapons, that he would respond with chemical weapons.
The words of a president matter, no matter how good or bad that president is.
And of course, the White House quickly walked back those words that matter.
The United States has no intention of using chemical weapons, period, under any circumstance.
You have to love that the White House had to clarify that the United States won't use chemical weapons on anyone. All because Joe Biden is a human gaffe machine. Then, while speaking to service members of the 82nd Airborne Division, Biden made the following claim.
I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan about 40 times, 38 times.
No, he hasn't. And we know this because Joe Biden has lied about it before. In 2019, while telling a false story about giving a service member the Silver Star, Biden also claimed, "I've been in and out of Afghanistan and Iraq over 30 times." And his campaign later clarified that the correct number is 21.
And the words the president says matter.
But that's nothing. Watch what he said while rambling about the resolve of the Ukrainian people.
And you're going to see when you're there, and some of you have been there, you're going to see women, young people standing in the middle in front of a damn tank, just saying, "I'm not leaving. I'm holding my ground."
And the White House had to clean that up because no, we're not sending US or NATO troops into Ukraine. Or maybe we are sending them and Joe Biden let the cat out of the bag.
Like I said, the words of a president matter.
And then, while nearing the end of his address in front of the royal castle in Poland, Biden started rushing through his lines.
We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principle, hope and light, of decency and dignity, of freedom and possibilities.
Slow down, Joe. This isn't a race. Clearly, he was done with Europe and really just wanted to get back on that plane to Delaware. But then, Biden decided to take a pretty lackluster speech and pump it up a notch.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
Whoa. That sounds like Joe Biden is calling for regime change in Russia. And I'm sure you can guess that the White House had to clean that one up too. The president's point was that Putin cannot be allowed to exercise power over his neighbors or the region. He was not discussing Putin's power in Russia or regime change. And that's complete bullshit, because Biden's line saying Putin cannot remain in power was ad-libbed. It was not part of the written speech. This is one of the rare occasions that Biden knew exactly what he was doing. So why did he say it? Because Joe wanted to look like a badass on the world stage. So thanks to Joe Biden, we're an inch closer to World War III. But hey, no more mean tweets, right?
The words of a president matter. Even a lousy president.
Anyway, that's it for now. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. If there is next time.